if you are older and you feel like you're starting again, it's not too late. I would actually argue that you have an advantage because you've lived life, you've made mistakes, you've learned from them. Today we have Mo in the Creative Den. Is starting over again, starting building his business after multiple partnerships with different businesses that he's been a part of. But now he's stepped down, he's doing his own thing, he's building something beautiful for himself and his family.
You have some great leaders, that you have some great potential, but you also have people out there that are in charge of businesses that you would think they have a clue, but they don't. You're not clear of who you are, what your values, what your mission is from a business standpoint, or just even how you live your life. Like, you can't get people to buy into it or to follow you when you don't even know who you are.
Let's dive into that because you've been doing this for 20 plus years, you know, as a manager, leading other people. Do you have a framework for how you go about like leading a team?
So first,
thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Excellent.
I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. Name of your company is Most Epic Life Company.
Most Epic Lifestyle Company. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a 2-in-1 company.
Okay.
So I have two businesses, and I kind of use that LC for lifestyle coffee or leadership consulting.
Nice.
So
break it down for us.
Yeah. So either way, it's Most Epic.
Okay.
Yeah. So originally the concept started in 2020 as a kind of a clothing brand.
Okay.
So everything you do in life, you should do Most Epic. So it was kind of a lifestyle brand.
Nice.
That I was trying to encompass, sports or action sports, things like that, and just everyday wear. And then as I got inundated with the business that I was currently a partner in at that time, it just kind of fell to the wayside from a branding perspective and just, pushing it out there. And then it sat idle for a while.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but it was 2020. And when that happened, it was during COVID. And it was kind of like the year of vision with everything that happened, of more eyes wide open, like kind of like an eyes open thing to what's really going on in the world and so on and so forth with that. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, we're glad to have you here. We're gonna have a great discussion on just leadership and just everything that you're doing. How do you even go about like creating a partnership, business wise?
Well, I'm sorry to backtrack to what we were talking about. So it transitioned into Most Epic Leadership Consulting and or Most Epic Lifestyle Coffee. So I have my own coffee brand as well.
Nice.
But as far as your question goes, from a partnership, everything I feel was just kind of a process, a step by step process from where I started to where I ended. Well, it's not the end yet, but definitely the progress and the progression of it and what I did to get there. So it was a big blessing starting from the bottom to the top, or I don't want to say to the top, but
Nice. No, that's cool. So you guys had, I remember you had like 4 different concepts, right? That you guys were working with in the food and beverage space.
Yeah, because you did the video for 36 Below for us. So it was 2 coffee concepts, Sip, and then one in Arcadia, one in Scottsdale, and then we had the Rose Garden, downtown Phoenix, and 36 Below, which was also in Arcadia.
Nice.
And then we actually landed an airport deal as well with another owner-operator that kind of took over that from not a franchise standpoint, but more of kind of just a buy-in to the concept. So we were pretty busy. And I started with the company in 2016 and worked my way all to partner and operations.
Gotcha.
So until 2000 and the end of last year. So I would say the beginning, January 1st was kind of the end of everything. So,
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had the concepts already going, and then you worked your way to like a partnership position with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I came in and just kind of moonlighting. I was I was managing another place during the mornings, and then I would moonlight over there in the evenings. And then things started to happen. The Lord started to bless me. And I moved into more management position as they needed some leaders. And from there, it just kind of took off, and we started to open other things and do other concepts, and we started to see the growth and the development of that.
Yeah.
So we continued to do more.
Nice.
And yeah, it was definitely a journey,
For sure.
a big learning lesson for sure, which I'm grateful for, and the opportunity from what I had learned throughout my years of hospitality, which was almost 20 years. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you had a lot going for you. You know, you were doing well, doing really good. Why did you decide to separate?
It was kind of, to be honest, it was I wouldn't say mutual, but we were just coming to terms of where everything was at in both of our lives, and where we wanted to be. And from a partnership standpoint, myself and my family, and we really were trying to, how do I say this? Like, align with what we want as a family.
Gotcha.
And from morals, from values to how we lead people. And we just, the time has ran its course.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm very grateful for all the opportunities. I learned a lot. But I think as you're in business and as you have partnerships, or, investors or whatever it may be, we all want to do things the way we want to do it. Right. But for me, it's doing things the way the Lord wants us to do it. And if so be it, like some things don't align, and he just kind of shows you like, hey, this is what I have in store for you.
Right.
These are the gifts that I have given you, the talents that I have given you. I want you to use them for something else. And you just kind of make that decision of, hey, upon other decisions that were part of that process, like, hey, I think it's just time then. We both agree it's time to just kind of separate, and, you go your way, I go my way, and just continue to pray for you and, for what we have going on as well in the future, and best wishes. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So overall, it was for family.
Yeah.
For the Lord and for family.
Nice. So you made the decision for yourself, your family, and ultimately what the Lord was speaking over you guys' lives. And then resurrecting back the idea of most epic lifestyle company and really starting to push that, and building something off of that. Tell us a little bit, like, how did you get back to that area of life?
It was funny because everybody's always, people that knew me, that when I started the brand, they were like, oh, you should bring Most Epic back. You should bring Most Epic back. And then I said, well, I already have this brand. What can I do with it? I've already established it. And from a social media standpoint, I already had gained followers. And, I wanted to separate my personal Instagram or our family's personal Instagram from a business one, because I was thinking about converting it over to just that to keep everybody. But I was like, you know what, we're going to use Most Epic. And I just started looking up acronyms. I was like, okay, Most Epic Lifestyle Company is the company, the LLC, but we can also do Most Epic Lifestyle Coffee, and Most Epic, Leadership Consulting. Yeah. I started with the coffee because, I literally had, first and foremost, I had to pray a lot. This was a whole trusting process and a different season. But I was like, what can I do now to generate income that I know very well? And in my head, it was, okay, I can start a coffee business, right? Yeah. So, what would be a great way of not only starting this to generate some income, but also to teach others how to do it. So originally my wife and I built a template of, hey, this is the budget, this is how long it takes, and you can do it too, right? But as we started moving forward, obviously my passion and my heart is in people. So it was, as I started to write my resume out as just kind of a practice, I started to really see what kind of qualities and skills I had.
Gotcha.
And I was blown away,
Yeah.
in which I was just like, Lord, thank you for giving me all this. I mean, from photography to video to, operationals to employees to team development. I mean, so much menu development, drink development, like all kinds of stuff. I was like, you know what? Maybe what I need to do is just pour into the people because when I started, and this goes back to the why, like why we do anything that we do, right? It was for community and people. And that's where I really felt like I flourished. And we basically decided like, hey, we're going to really focus on the leadership, and the consulting side of it so that we can help other people as well. Because I remember being in that state of, what do you do next? Right. And I didn't have anyone to really turn to ask. And maybe I did, but that was that season of humbleness that I wasn't quite understanding yet of like just reaching out and asking. You think you can do it yourself, but that's another part of leadership is learning to be humble and to recognize things.
Yeah. Let's dive into that because you've been doing this for 20 plus years, as a manager, leading other people. What do you think do you have a framework for how you go about like leading a team?
So first, and this is through experience and what I'm really seeing in these past like 6 months from separation is just self-awareness and just really like analyzing like where you were into where you're at now and why you are doing this. So my perspective of it is really just listening to the people. I mean, because, in any conversation, they'll tell you what they need from you or what they want from you. But the way I go about it now is just like really listening and really understanding and really trying to hear their needs, and then analyzing that, assessing it, and then breaking it down to from a leadership standpoint or, a team member standpoint of like, hey, I see your qualities, but this is what we're going to work on so that I can help develop you even more.
Gotcha.
And now I have the time. That was the biggest thing too. I was, pulled in so many different directions. Now you learn and you see and you have this time to build this, I would say, document, to really just be able to pinpoint like, hey, this person's struggling. This person has great work ethic, but they're struggling in making decisions or discernment or, or even customer service or whatever it may be. So it's just watching them, analyzing them, listening to them, and then really just step-by-step process of, hey, this is what we're going to work on. We're going to take some time to do this and get back to being with the people instead of, oh, hey, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, or I got to do this, or I'm doing busy work. It's like, no, this was why I started this is to lead people, originally. So
yeah. Do you find out that people are like really looking for someone to help lead them, especially like someone that is younger?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like they're just, they don't care?
That yes and no. I see that people are always hungry for education. There's people that don't care. There's definitely people that are just like, hey, I'm here to do my job. I think I do it decently. It's going to keep me here, until I move on to the next thing. Or there's people that when you really start to pour into them, they show you that like, hey, I'm really interested in this, or hey, that was really great, when it comes to feedback, and I want more. And usually as a society, we want more.
Yeah.
And so we reach a point in our lives that we're when it comes to education or just learning to become better, there's a lot of people out there that want more. So yeah. And then you have to, once you start giving that, you have to continue to give it, so.
Yeah. Have you found out that those are the people that actually become something down in life?
You see the value, or I'm sorry, you see the qualities in them the leadership qualities, management qualities, or just, good work ethic, just good people,
Right.
and that goes into like a whole hiring process as well to really analyze those people while you're vetting them or
Right.
whatever it may be. And then, like I said, from the other side, there's just people that just want to put their head down and work and don't really ask much. They just come and they do their job,
Yeah.
So you have people that, seek for validation. You have go-getters. You have people that are just there. They're all very valuable team members and, to your business as long as it's not affecting anything in a negative way.
Right.
So,
Right. No, that's cool. So now you're really wanting to focus on building the most epic leadership consultant side of it. How have you started doing that? Even
really, I was focusing on this coffee thing a little too much, not too much, but, because that's what I thought I knew the most, but from a leader.
Well, you do make great coffee.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I'll say
I
that.
appreciate that.
I had
Great.
one cup the other day, and it was really good.
Yeah, thank you so much. But from the leadership side and to develop that, I just started doing some social media stuff, as you have probably seen. And I'm really going to start honing in on that and just offering my services, because back to what I had said before is just like, from being a servant leader, like, how can I help you? Like, how can I help you in your business? And how can I help you in your business? And like, what can I do to give back? And like, that's what we're all searching for. And that's like when we're lost and we don't know what to do next. Like, I'm going to be that person to help you through that process, through all the years of knowledge that, I had learned and the skills that the Lord gave me. Like, this is what I do. This is how I do it. And, there's variations of, but just keeping to that core structure of just leading people and leading people intentionally. And, self-awareness, like I said, humbleness, and just giving back to them. So I'm starting this process of right now finalizing documentation, because there's just a lot. I really focus on leadership, team development, customer service, and like operational efficiencies.
Nice.
So, we can sit here all day and talk about, what I do and go through, and from an operational standpoint of your business, customer service is kind of like a gift. You know people that are just great with people.
Right.
And then there's, steps to that, steps of service and all of that. But when the leadership, that's just a whole, like, it takes time.
Yeah.
You have some great leaders that you have some great potential. But you also have people out there that are in charge of businesses that, like, you would think they have a clue, but they don't, and it just takes some learning, some teaching, if that's what they want to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've broken it out into operationals, customer service, and what was the third one again?
So it's leadership / team development, or employee.
Okay, perfect.
So,
what do you think most businesses struggle with the most when it comes to one of those three?
So I think personally, from experience, because I was that person, I think it is the leadership. It always starts with leadership, right? It always starts from the top down. And if you're not clear of who you are, what your values, what your mission is from a business standpoint, or just even how you live your life, like, you can't get people to buy into it or to follow you when you don't even know who you are, right? And you're trying all these different things, or you're mimicking, or you just are a business person that is focused on whatever you may be focused on and not really your people. So it starts with the leadership, the owners, and then the managers, and then it's a trickle effect.
Right.
And, Craig Groeschel said this, it's creating a cult-like culture, right? So, and not a negative way, but a way of, like, people want to just be a part of you and the business because they care, because you care. They want to see it successful. They want, there's a lot of businesses out there that do well with that, and they just want to be a part of it. So, yeah.
That's cool. I low-key want to put myself on the hot seat here. and be like, you know me a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I've been doing. I have a video production company. What do you think? I mean, I don't know if you know the intricacies of my business itself or the back end stuff of my business, but from the outside looking in, what do you feel like I should work on the most for my business?
I think I watched you grow from knowing you within the church and what you have previously done. And you also did our wedding. You
Right.
guys both did our wedding.
Yep.
So I see the growth and development. I don't know, like from a priority standpoint, you seem to be very organized. What I do is I come in and I sit with the business, and not to just, hey, this is what I do, but to have a proper assessment is I'll do a 30-minute to 45-minute call with you, and you kind of tell me what you're looking for, or what you're seeking out of this. I have a series of questions, and then if we decide to move, what I do is I'll assess it, and then I'll get back to you and say, hey, this is based off of what you're telling me, this is what you would like to work on. I'm going to come to your space, whether it's the den or a business, and give you about an hour or 2 hours of my time, and I'll do a needs assessment. And then it's from walking in to the building, observing the space, and all throughout this whole process. Right. So I want to really say, hey, I haven't really observed you in your in your world yet, but I think everything that you're doing is great. I think the podcast, everything looks great. Everyone that you have on, your social media is really blown up. Your website looks great. So operationally, I don't know what your operations look like, but you're becoming more personable. I can tell you that from, we've always had a good conversation, but you've been more open. So all these things are a positive. I can't really, to be honest, hey, you should probably try this. Right. If I had some really good feedback, then I would give that to you. But everything that I'm seeing so far has been efficient.
I appreciate it.
So
I'll say from what you've said, I probably need more help with the operational side of things.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what to be honest. I think, so I have my business. I work at a church. Under the church, I've had creatives work under me. I've had like anywhere from 5, creatives at a time that I'm leading.
Right.
And then they have volunteers that they're leading as well.
Right.
20 plus at a time, and so I've grown in that part of leadership. I remember having to have the tough conversations. Like the first time I did it, my heart was like pounding, arms were like sweating, like Eminem said.
Yeah, palms are sweaty.
Yeah, and like I'm like there, like But now, as time has gone on, and I've had those conversations, I've had tougher conversations with people. It becomes a little bit easier, and I've seen myself grow. And that's from the leadership perspective. And then to your point of customer service area is I've become more personable for sure. I grew up an introvert. I've always been an introvert. And like doing this and pushing myself out to be a little bit more personable with people, I've been able to relate to people, even back then, but more on a one-on-one level.
Right.
Now it's more like one-on-many level, trying to relate to many people rather than just one person at a time. And so if I was to pinpoint probably operationals, back-end stuff, that's what I'm figuring out. And any business will tell you that that's probably like the part where it's like people throw on the end, leadership, but people also throw the back-end stuff sometimes where it's just like, I'm just building, I'm just working. Then one time it's like, okay, everything crashes.
Yeah.
Because you haven't created that structure.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so from that standpoint, and what I try to teach as well, and it's funny because my wife, Elise, actually teaches me a lot of this because she was in sales. She's just very great at what she does. And, I'm very appreciated to have that support. And it's like documentation and it's getting it all ready and being just like efficient in that area before that crash happens, right? So within leadership or even within businesses, a lot of places, and I think we talked about this the other day, but a lot of places outgrow their SOPs, their policy and procedures, their processes, and their even their documentation, because, you started at this and you did what worked that you had in back of your head that you knew how to do.
Right.
But then you start to scale, you start to do the podcast, you start to do all these things. Now you're going out and it's like, oh, I don't have the processes.
Yep.
So what do I do next? Or your team's growing, like you said, you're managing all these people. Like, what is the process for this?
Right.
And this is where those efficiencies and documentation become very valuable, because it's just black and white, right? Even the tough conversations, right? It's just black and white.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, oh, it's just business, like it is. Like we're a little more, forgiving, and we have mercy, and when it comes to those things. But at the end of the day, these are the policies, these are the procedures, this is the correct documentation, it's the accountability, and then you just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
But you need to get these systems and processes organized in order right from the beginning,
Right.
so that you have a template to just abide by.
Yeah.
That you're not going off cuff. And I've been definitely I've done that. I've been there. I was just like, oh, when it gets there, I know how to do it, because I know how to do it. But how do you teach others, right, to do that? Because that's the goal, is to create leaders, right? And I we can sit here and talk all day, but if I don't, teach you and show you, like, how are you going to do it?
Right.
So, and that's where that part is valuable. So my suggestion is, if you already recognize that for yourself, just like you document every day all of this, with your camera, with everything, document, put it on paper, and digitize it and put it on paper, so that you have it, so that you can give it to somebody else in layman's terms, so that they can understand it when it's time to teach them.
Teach other
Yeah,
people, for sure.
Yeah. So,
and that's what we're doing with the podcast. Actually, I've been thinking about this, and for me, it comes as video first. I think of it like I'm just gonna record it,
right.
rather than type it up. So it comes as video first. We're gonna do an entire tour of our setup, the cameras we use, the mics we use, and then the editing systems, and how I edit as well. And from the organization of the footage we get, the audio we get, to the breakdown of cutting it up and exporting and then uploading and then distribution. So we're gonna do a whole video on all that.
That's great.
And show people just the process of that.
Yeah,
So.
that's awesome. My approach on those types of things when I do the assessment is I walk in and I just look at everything and just like, what do we need? What is missing? What is this? What is that? And just kind of like write it down and go through the process, even from a training perspective.
Right.
Like from entering the door, from a customer service standpoint, it's like, are they greeting? Are they reaching the customer within 1 minute? Are they offering? Are they, genuine? Are they upselling? Are, all these like things that, lead to, quality of customer service, but also profit as well. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So,
but it's good that that's where the self-awareness comes in, that what you need to work on, and then it's just doing it.
Yeah.
Because as creatives, as artists, a lot of us or they say is we're more like, all the other stuff is just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll do that. Where our passion is in the art, so we're a little unorganized, But that's not the truth.
That's not the truth.
Yeah, it's not the truth.
Like,
so
use Google Docs. It's free.
Yeah, exactly.
Type it up and save it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can pull it up on your phone whenever you need it. You know? It's like, if this happens, then this. When you're like in grade school, we learned that literally. If this, then this, right? That's the idea of procedures. So, that's cool. That's cool. I'll definitely get on that.
Yeah,
doing some stuff.
And my wife, we were just talking about this the other day. It's working backwards, right, from a project management standpoint, and really just talking to me about like, hey, here's your vision, here's your goal. Like, what are the steps to achieve that from a reverse method, right? Like, so that you're making sure that you're in line with everything.
Right. And that's the hard work, is like sitting down and actually using your mind to think, and because a lot of times, especially in culture, it's like a go, go, go situation where it's like, oh, I got this shoot, I got this, I got this, I got this.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to like just do the thing that is probably the most important, whereas like creating those procedures, it's hard for people because now you have to actually think about what you want, what you need to get what you want
Right.
as well. So,
Right.
yeah.
And you talked about that in one of your other podcasts, where it's just like your vision. What is your true vision?
Right.
And that goes with anything, whether you guys are going to a shoot or whatever it may be. Like, start with that. This
Yep.
is the process, and then here's the process of it, or the vision, and here's the process.
Yeah.
So
No, that's cool. Paul is really good at that because every shoot that we have, it gives me a list of everything that we need to bring. Just having a list, like
Yeah.
you'll be surprised how many times you get to a shoot, it's like, I didn't bring that.
yeah,
Because there was no list.
Yeah.
Or there's even like videographers and photographers, they've talked about this where at some point in your career, you're going to forget your SD card.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that you need.
Yeah.
This small, tiny thing,
Or
if
a
you don't
battery.
have it, you can't do anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, just having those procedures for sure is important. You mentioned something as you were talking about customer service. 1 minute to greet the customer. Is that standard, or do you feel like people fall short?
I feel like people fall short, and there's different variables. There's, you could be it depends on what type of service you're providing, whether you're walking into, East Sporta, or you're walking into Walgreens, or you're walking into a restaurant. Just that basic acknowledgement that, like, hey, I see you. Like, I know you're here. Like, I'm here to serve you. Like, it says it all in just a greeting.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, good morning. How are you?
Yeah.
And it should be 1 to 2 minutes.
Right.
And
Right.
anything else, yeah, I get you're busy, but customers don't know. Like, as a consumer walking in, yeah, because I do this. This is what I do. I understand. But people that you hear people about, like, they don't have any clue about, like, tipping and stuff like that. Those are the people that are like, I don't know what you're doing. I just know that you didn't greet me, right? Or whatever it may be. And on the other side, it's like, hey, I'm actually doing something very important, but it still doesn't mean that they can't say, hey, we'll be right with you, or hey, welcome in, whatever it is. So
you'll be surprised, like, how even just walking down the street, you try to like make eye contact with people, just say hi or say what's up, and they're just like focused in their own world.
Yeah.
And I watched this guy, his name is Myron Golden, and it says like the greeting of someone is seeing the godlikeness in them. It's like saying that you are human, I'm human. I say hi to you. That's like seeing the God within them, because we're all created in God, in the image of God.
Right.
So, like, literally ignoring someone is like when that scripture says, "You see me in this." Like when Jesus says, "You see me in this person, and you would ignore me." It's basically doing that.
Right.
And you're relating that to customer service in a way, and it's just like if you just go out of your way to say hi to someone, you don't know what that person is going through,
Right.
and that could be the change that someone needs.
Right. Exactly.
So,
I say that all the time, especially for a business, in the coffee business, you are the first line of defense. You are that first person that they come in at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., ready to get their coffee or whatever, and you can make or break their day, right? So, you have a crappy attitude, and, you don't want to be at work, and all these other things could have happened, and you put that on that customer, and they're just like, great, that just, confirmed my day's gonna, you never know what people think, but hey, at least, hey, good morning, how are you? Like, what do you have going on today? And just being candid and casual and truly care about what these people actually have going on in their lives, because you never know, and it could make their day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
All right, so you do video, you do photography, you've done some stuff with branding and putting yourself out there on social media. How important is it to create content?
I think we talked about practicing what you preach and being our biggest critic. And it's like, I know all these things. I tell all these things to people, especially from, free content to when this started way years ago, like with social and all of this. It's there, but it's the next step of doing it, right? And I think it's very valuable.
Right.
And, it depends on what you're trying to do and who you're trying to reach. and how authentic. I think we talked about that before, of like how authentic you are when you do these things and what your intentions are. But I think it's very valuable and very important. It's just doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where creatives, and I say creatives are artists. Like sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. We want things to be perfect.
Right.
And you procrastinate a little bit. And, I always say that, like, people that are, okay, I might get some heat for this, but people say, oh, I'm a perfectionist. And it's like, what I've seen is perfectionists tend to be procrastinators.
Sure.
And it's the truth, I think, because whether from a good way or a bad way, but it's like you just got to do that, and I fall into that sometimes where I'm just like, I want to get my point across, but I want it to be of value, and I really want people to understand, and so it's like sometimes you have to get it out,
Right.
and you'll see the traction, and then like you said, as you start doing it more, no matter what it is, it becomes easier. Yeah, talking to people. Doing things like this, like it just becomes easier, and you're like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad, right?
And even from a standpoint of being like a perfectionist, that's very true. Most people that label themselves as perfectionists are actually procrastinators, because no one can ever be perfect,
right?
So now, because you're trying to leave this, like, get to this level that you could never achieve, you're actually delaying the thing that you're supposed to do. It's like you're doing it and you're like, oh, it's not there yet. And then a week goes by, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
Then 2 months goes by, it's not there yet. And so now you're actually delaying yourself from getting to that level because you haven't actually done the work.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's fear as well. Fear of like what, we get too worried about what people think.
Right.
And I can just be truthfully honest that, like, like, oh, well, you were part of these businesses and this and that, like you had some failures, if somebody wants to recognize that, as we all do, but there's success and failure, right? So now I'm at a point of, hey, this is what I've learned. And now I'm taking those failures and I'm really trying to be successful now that I have the time to really observe myself and be self-aware of myself, and say, okay, this is what I learned not to do.
Yeah.
And then how can I, achieve these next goals by doing what I learned not to do. And, as far as worrying about what people think, especially on social media, like as you grow from YouTube and things, like there's always going to be trolls or whoever, but there's also, when you're your authentic self and people love you for who you are, and what you exude, and from the Lord's standpoint, and like you'll have way much more in abundance than the people that you used to know.
That's true. Yeah. Hey, so just go create content.
Yeah,
go create content.
Yeah, and we just talked about this the other day. I'm not struggling with it. I know what to do, and I find that when I do it, it's it's easier, but I still deal with that. Like I want to make sure it has value, and I want to reach people, and then it's like like 200 likes. You're like, oh well, let's someone will stumble across it later on.
So you just never know. You never know what's actually gonna help. It could help one person, and you've already done your work. You can't control the output, what people think. You can only control the input, what you put into it. And we came up with an idea. I came up on the other day when we were talking about you creating content, because you've been visiting different coffee shops and just basically selling your product, your services to them. And I was like, what if you just turn that into a content? You're there, you're already there, you film yourself there. Maybe you try out their coffee, you get to see their customer service, and then at the end of it you rate it, and that would be great content, especially from a standpoint that you've already gone through this. You've been doing this for 20 years. You definitely have the knowledge. You have the great attitude. Obviously I know you, so you're not gonna come from a judgmental perspective. You're gonna have grace with whatever it is that you do. And so if you turn that into content, bro, like that would be some great stuff.
Yeah, we did talk about that. And I think to elaborate on that, what I do is I go in, 3 days a week, 2 days a week, I go into about 10 to 15 places. I scout out my locations, or area, and I go visit, and I walk in and I offer my services, try to meet with the owner or the manager and tell them who I am and what I do from a consultant standpoint. And then I was telling you, I was, trying their coffee, just to give back and to support them in these places, especially ones that were very welcoming. But then it started getting a little too expensive. So, but yeah, I think, I was like, okay, well, like I should be doing this, but you really hit the nail on the head. It's just like, it's so easy. You're already there. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
Like, why not turn it into something?
Right.
And then that's where that, for me personally, just, it's not fear. It's just like, it's taking the time to do it of like, here's my intention. Like I'm, and that's where writing the steps down. Right. And making sure everything is like, okay, I'm going to go out, I'm going to set my day. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to walk into this space. I'm going to offer my services. This is the step-by-step process. So you're not just like, oh, I forgot to do that, or, and we're talking about the checklist. Like I created a checklist for when I go and do coffee. And there's how many times have I forgot the menus or this or that, but just follow your set list, just like you would when you go and, you're building out what you're shooting, right? Like what you're filming. Same thing with this. Like, I think I just need to put it out. This is my intention. I'm going to stop at this space, give myself some time and not feel rushed.
Right.
Or there's always that, like, I've definitely talked to people who are like, we're not going to need your services. And it kind of like, okay, just, you go into this, not spiral, but you didn't expect that.
Right.
And so it's just like, no, stick to what you intended to do and just abide by that no matter what is thrown at you. Right. So, I think it's a great idea and in a nutshell. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we're going to create a bunch of content. We're creating content right now.
Yeah. So just wait for some reviews coming soon.
Yes, sir. All right. So we're both wearing our dad hats.
Yes.
Dad gang hats.
Yes.
Shout out to Dad Gang for creating this stuff because I love the quality of the hats. It's really cool stuff. And
if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Yes. We're both parents. You have a 1.5-year-old expecting number 2. I have a 2.5, and we have an 8-month-old as well.
And I have an older daughter as well.
Yes, you do. How does everything tie it into, like, you're building something? You have a family. You're nurturing your family. You guys are growing. How does everything tie into that?
So I think it just goes back to, why we started this. So this is something, just to elaborate on the process and how it happened, this is something that we prayed for before it ended. So it was something even a year prior that we were just like, okay, it's going to be time, like, what can we do to start, to do something for our family, to create generational wealth, to create something for our family to, be able to pass on. And it's, I always got to remember, like, even in this season, like, the Lord's like, you prayed for this. Yeah. So this is where we're at. So what are you going to do with it? Because I've just given it to you. It might have not been on your terms around that time, but I know you and you might have drugged this out a little bit longer, right? So here's your opportunity. What are you going to do with it? And does it serve me? And is it going to serve your family? So that was the intention of just like, hey, I'm going to do this for my family so that we can have freedom. And, a lot of us are, just abide by, people that we work with or companies or whatever it may be. And the Lord doesn't want us to do that.
Right.
He wants us to be entrepreneurs. He wants us to, to create and to have stuff for our family so that we can teach them in his ways and we can show other people as well that like, hey, I am literally in this trust season and we are fully trusting that we didn't expect this right now, but we're going to, these are the gifts he gave us and this is how we're going to work with them. Yeah. And so it was for family, for the Lord, for family, and to really just like, to try to create something for a longevity standpoint. And it's going to take time,
Right.
just like everything else does. And the Lord can bless, and he's always blessing us. But it could be right then and there, today, tomorrow, 5 years later, 10
Right.
years later. But we're just in this season of trusting right
Yeah.
now. So
Like your yes
Yeah.
is good, you
Yeah.
know. And like even me thinking back before I got married, we had the baby, I've always prayed for this life,
Yeah.
you know. And just you never know how like God is gonna interweave everything to
Yeah.
work together. But you know the word says everything works together for those that are called according to His purpose, and they love God, are called according to His purpose. And so
Amen.
that's what we're doing. And now we get to this point where it's like my wife, she ended up leaving her job
Mm-hmm.
because we felt like that was the next step for us, step of faith.
Right.
It's a big
Exactly.
step.
Yeah.
And she's worked for a while, and she'll tell her story later on, but I don't want to get into that much. But now in a place where it's like you just have to trust God. Like if even though it might not make sense physically or make some sense to a lot of people, it makes sense to God.
Yeah.
He's the one that told us to take the step, and we're doing that.
Yeah.
And He's gonna have to come through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's leaning on, not leaning on your own understanding, because
Right.
it's just like, even when we started this, I'm like, okay, I know coffee, I can do this, but like, was that his plan? It's like, yeah, I may know these things, or I could do this, but is that his plan? No, I'm leaning on my own understanding because this is what I know how to do. And like, no, just trust that he's going to provide, and he's just great. He just gives you, like, he just out of nowhere, just things just arise and pop up, and he gives you these gifts and all of this stuff, and even just knowing who you are and where you started to where you're at now, like, man, thank you, Lord, like, because I wouldn't have any of this or know any of this or how to do any of this without you.
Right.
That you gave me these things, and this was the process, the steps that he that he led you through, and this is where you're at now. So
isn't that crazy? Like He knows the steps, even though we haven't seen it.
Right.
He knows the steps, and we'll lay steps as well. And then He kind of like just works everything out. Like that's really cool.
But we're not lazy people,
Right.
And we're not asking for, hey, I'm just sitting here not doing anything,
Right.
like, bless me. It's like, no, we work. We continue to work. We continue to sow, and we continue to lead, and He's going to provide at His time,
For sure.
and what He wants you to have.
Yeah.
Like, He wouldn't take you out of something that you prayed for to put you back into the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and I just think about my family and what I want for them, and that's to be able to give back, to be able to tithe to efficiently, to be able to give back to people, to be able to sow into other businesses, to support each other, just like we're doing now, like just to be a servant leader.
Yeah.
To give back to people. So
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, man. This has been
and to teach our kids, teach our kids to do the same
do the
thing,
same,
to emulate,
Yeah.
in Christ. So
Yeah, no, that's really cool. It's crazy. My daughter since she's been one, we got her this little camera, and she loves it. And then she comes in this room sometimes when I'm not even watching.
Yeah.
Sits down here, tries to start talking on the mic. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Where did you see that from? I
Yeah.
guess just from watching me, and it's really cool. It's
Well,
really cool.
we want to emulate our Father, right?
Right.
So, and our children want to emulate us if we're leading by example.
Yeah.
And it's amazing on just the things they pick up. Even
Right.
our daughter, she, we try not to give her the phone, but when she's on the phone, she literally knows how to hit the video and the camera, and it's funny. So,
Yeah, that's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, well, this has been a crash course on leadership. If you want to lead and have a good life, find people that need, leaders, and become a leader and teach them how to be leaders as well. You're not just teaching them how to do the thing.
Right.
I'm not just teaching people how to be photographers or videographers. I'm teaching them how to be leaders outside of that.
Right.
Because I've always said this thing, like, yes, we're all creatives.
Mm-hmm.
If we come from the image of God, we're all creatives. But at some point, we might not be able to use the creative gift to the full standard that we want to. But what you would have is yourself. Your leadership skills will still be there, and who are you becoming while you're doing the thing, And I'm about to like bring out some some programs and some stuff, and that's what it's gonna be on. It's not gonna be just on videography. It's not just gonna be on content creating. It's gonna be on who you're becoming in the process.
Right.
And that's
That's
really
great.
cool.
I'm
Yeah.
excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's some value in that
Mhm.
just overall. And I kind of say the same thing from anyone can manage.
Mm.
Anyone can be a manager. Anyone can take these documents and point and direct and tell people what to do. But to be a leader is something different.
For sure.
To inspire people
Yeah.
and to lead them and to build generations of
Yes,
leaders. So yeah.
Yes, sir. All right. Is there anything you haven't shared yet that you would like to, and just drop a nugget?
For me, it's just really, I don't think people understand, like, when you ask for stuff from the Lord, that, I had touched topic on this before. It's just like, remember, you asked for this. Like, so this is going to make or break you the Lord's always going to take care of you as long as you're, stewarding and working, because, he always wants us to work, especially for his glory. But, like, what are you going to do with it? And how are you going to, he really wants to see how much you trust him.
Mhm.
Right. And so I think people just really need to understand that, like, if you ask for it, you have to be ready to, do something with it.
Right.
And to really trust and like, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
you start to spiral and you're just like, well, then I'm going to need to do this, I'm going to
Yeah.
need to do that, and take care of my family or whatever. And it's just like, just trust, like, be proactive but trust.
Mhm.
And I think people really need to understand that hey, I don't want to tell you guys, but I'm 44. And if I know I can do it, that anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And like you said prior, that I've just learned all of these things. And when you're 18, 19, 20, whatever it may be, you don't even know who you are yet.
Right.
So I think this time, this period is like, I'm taking all this accumulation
Mhm.
of things that I have learned, and I'm teaching people how to do that and how
That's
to use
cool.
it. And the biggest thing is just, we can lead a horse to water,
Yeah.
but we can't, make them drink.
Mhm.
So if if I'm teaching all of this, like, you just do something with it, just like
Right.
the Lord, he's like, I'm giving you this, like, do something with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right. Where can people find you?
So during the week, I do my consulting. You can call me, text me, email me. But on the weekends, I do coffee pop-ups with the coffee cart that I built.
Mhm.
You saw that cart that I built, so it's just collapsible, and I take it to different spaces. Right now, I've been able to have some partnerships with a local gym, Next Level Performance, and I'm there 2 months out of the, 2 days out of the month. But other than that, I'm doing pop-ups at Trevor's,
Mhm.
McDowell, in Scottsdale, and I'm
Nice.
there Fridays and Saturdays from like 9 to 1,
Nice.
and just put a coffee program into the space.
Mhm.
You saw what they had going on in there. It's kind of a lot of cool stuff, but also just to be able to stay. I wanted to stay in coffee, regardless, because of the connections, because of the community, and it is my part of my passion.
Yeah.
But I know the consulting is the bulk of everything.
For sure.
But I have some really cool stuff going on with the
Yeah.
coffee, so I always wanted to continue to do that and be
Nice.
a part of that, and then maybe give it to my babies later,
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
or give it to somebody that wants to start a business.
Yeah.
So, and I can teach them how to do
How to
that,
do that.
like how to build a coffee business. So yeah.
That's awesome, bro. Well, thank you guys for joining us in the Creative Dan. Like I always say, we're all created to create something, so go create something.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for being on. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
So this was a crash course on leadership. We talked about leadership. We talked about how to grow as a leader, how to lead other people as well. Then we went into talking about family as well, and then just putting your trust in the Lord in everything that you're doing. If you would like to continue to stay in touch with what we're doing, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. leave us a comment, share it with someone that needs to listen to this conversation. If you're listening via audio, leave a review because that's how we grow on this on those channels. If you want to stay in touch with what Mo is doing and his family, follow them on Instagram. Most Epic Lifestyle Company. You can check out what they're doing. Most Epic as well. And like we always say, you've been created to create something, so go create.